The Chimera limped into Nexus Station's docking ring like a wounded animal, its mismatched hull plates reflecting starlight in a dozen different colors. Captain Sarah Chen watched through the main viewport as sleek corporate vessels hurriedly moved away, their captains no doubt worried about their pristine ships being seen anywhere near her infamous hybrid vessel. Docking thrusters at 30% efficiency, reported Navigator Kexri, their Arcturian pilots' translucent fingers dancing across both holographic and physical controls. The integration between systems is getting worse, Captain. Sarah nodded, dark eyes fixed on the approaching station. At 34, she was young for a starship captain, but necessity had thrust the role upon her when she discovered the abandoned alien vessel 3 years ago. Most had called her crazy for salvaging it, even crazier for trying to integrate human technology with its alien systems. Now those same people called her desperate. They weren't entirely wrong. Engineering reports the quantum core is stable, called out First Officer Marcus Wong from his station. Though Rivera says that's only because she's got half the backup generators running on good old-fashioned fusion power. A barely perceptible shudder ran through the deck plates as Kexri matched their rotation with the station. The Chimera might be ugly, but their pilot could make her dance when needed. They'd proven that during their last cargo run, even if nobody believed their flight logs. Attention vessel Chimera. The station controller's voice crackled through their comms with barely concealed disdain. Proceed to docking bay 47. Mind the structural integrity warnings. Acknowledged control, Sarah replied evenly, though her jaw tightened. Bay 47 was in the station's industrial sector, reserved for garbage SCOs and maintenance craft. 3 years of successful runs, of proving they could haul cargo faster and more efficiently than pure alien or human ships, and they were still treated like outcasts. The Chimera's docking clamps engaged with a series of thuds that echoed through the hull. Sarah rose from her chair, straightening her worn captain's jacket. All right, people, we've got 4 hours for resupply and repairs before our next run. Let's make them count. As her crew dispersed to their tasks, Sarah made her way to engineering. The corridor lights flickered between standard illumination and the alien bioluminescence they'd never fully managed to override. Like everything else about the Chimera, it was a compromise between two technologies never meant to work together. Chief Engineer Maya Rivera met her at the quantum core housing, the Hispanic woman's face smudged with grease despite the supposedly clean nature of alien power systems. Before you ask, Captain, we're holding together. Barely. These jury-rigged adapters between our fusion plants and their quantum matrix weren't meant for long-term use. Sarah ran her hand along a panel where human analog gauges had been installed alongside alien crystalline displays. What do you need? A miracle? Or bearing that, about 50,000 credits worth of parts. Rivera's laugh was bitter. The quantum core's efficiency drops every time we push it, and our workarounds can only compensate so much. We're approaching a point where something's got to give. We've got a high-priority medical supply run to the outer colony, Sarah said. The pay's good if we can deliver on time. If we can deliver at all, Rivera corrected. One bad quantum fluctuation and we'll be dead in space. Unless, she hesitated. Unless what? I've been working on something. A way to use mechanical governors to stabilize the quantum field. Old tech, like ancient steam engine regulators, but modified to work at the quantum level. The Corvs would laugh us out of space if they knew, but the math checks out. Sarah smiled. It was exactly the kind of impossible, hybrid solution that had drawn her to the Chimera in the first place. Do it. Whatever you need, make it happen. It's time we showed them what this ship can really do. As she headed back to the bridge, Sarah passed a viewport and caught sight of the Chimera's reflection in the station's polished hull. Her ship was ugly, a patchwork of human and alien technology that belonged nowhere. But maybe that was exactly why it belonged everywhere. The station's public address system crackled to life, announcing the arrival of a corporate luxury liner. Sarah watched it glide past, all gleaming hull plates and synchronized quantum drives. Let them laugh. Let them mock. The chimera might be a joke to them, but soon they'd learn that humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to take the discarded and forgotten, and forge it into something new, something revolutionary. Hidden potential. The medical supplies sat in their cargo hold like a ticking clock. Each container was clearly marked with the outer colony's quarantine symbols, a reminder of what was at stake. Sarah studied the manifest again, calculating transit times against their deteriorating systems. Status report. She called out as Rivera entered the bridge, the engineer's usual confidence tempered by exhaustion. The mechanical governors are installed, Rivera reported, bringing up a schematic on the main display. But we haven't had time to test them properly. In theory, they should help stabilize the quantum core by providing a physical backup system. Kexri's bioluminescent patterns shifted in what Sarah had learned was their species' expression of skepticism, using mechanical systems to control quantum fields. That's like trying to catch starlight with a fishing net. Sometimes the old ways work best, Rivera countered. Quantum systems are incredibly powerful, but they're also sensitive to fluctuations. A properly designed mechanical governor can provide a stable framework for the quantum field to operate within. Before they could debate further, the ship's proximity alerts blared. Marcus swore at his tactical station. "Captain, we've got 3 ships dropping out of quantum space. Corporate registry. It's Valcorp Security." Sarah's heart sank. Valcorp was one of the largest medical supply corporations in human space, and they didn't take kindly to independent operators cutting into their monopoly. "Open a channel," she ordered, straightening in her chair. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of a Valcorp commander. "Vessel Chimera, this is Commander Harris of Valcorp Security. Our scans indicate you're carrying restricted medical supplies. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding." Sarah kept her voice steady. "Commander, these supplies are properly licensed for transport to the outer colonies. We have all the necessary documentation." "Documentation can be forged," Harris interrupted. "Valcorp has exclusive contracts for medical transport in this sector. Power down, or we will disable your vessel." The tactical display showed the Valcorp ships moving to surround them. Their sleek hulls bristled with weapons that could tear the chimera apart. "Rivera," Sarah said quietly, "how confident are you in those governors?" The engineer's eyes lit up. "Confident enough to try something crazy. Crazy is what we do best. Kexri, plot us a course through the maelstrom." The Arcturian's skin pulsed with alarm. The maelstrom was a notorious quantum storm, a region of space where normal quantum drives failed catastrophically. "The maelstrom," Marcus exclaimed. "Captain, that's suicide. The quantum distortions will tear us apart." "Not if Rivera's mechanical governors work as designed." Sarah opened a shipwide channel. "All hands, secure for emergency maneuvers. Engineering, give us everything you've got." The Valcorp commander's face reddened. "This is your final warning." Sarah cut the transmission. "Kexri, take us in." The Chimera's hybrid drives roared to life, a sound unlike any other ship in space, part quantum hum, part mechanical thunder. They accelerated toward the swirling chaos of the maelstrom, the Valcorp ships in close pursuit. The first quantum distortions hit them like a physical blow. Warning alerts screamed across every console as the ship's alien systems began to fail. But beneath the chaos, Sarah felt something else. The steady rhythm of Rivera's mechanical governors, working exactly as designed. "Quantum core stability at 40%, Rivera called out, her hands flying over her controls. "Mechanical governors compensating. Stability rising to 75%. Through the viewport, Sarah watched in amazement as streams of quantum energy that should have torn them apart instead flowed around their hull, guided by the interplay of mechanical and quantum systems. The Valcorp ships fell behind, their pure quantum drives unable to cope with the distortions. "This is incredible," Marcus breathed, watching his readings. The mechanical governors aren't just stabilizing our systems. They are using the maelstrom's energy to boost our power output. We're actually going faster. Kexri's piloting was a dance of precision, guiding them through gaps in the quantum storms that only their hybrid systems could detect. Captain, at this rate, we'll cut our transit time to the outer colonies in half. For the first time in years, Sarah felt real hope. The Chimera wasn't just surviving. It was thriving in conditions that would cripple any other ship. They'd found their edge, their proof that sometimes the best solutions came from combining the old with the new. Rivera, she called out, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. I think it's time we stop trying to hide what makes this ship special. Let's show the galaxy what happens when human ingenuity meets alien technology. The engineer's grin was visible even through the storm's ethereal light. Aye, Captain. Though I doubt they're going to believe the flight logs this time either. Sarah laughed as the Chimera soared deeper into the maelstrom, her hybrid heart beating strong and sure. They'd been called crazy for believing this ship could work. Now they were about to prove that crazy was exactly what the galaxy needed. Rising stakes. News traveled fast in space. By the time the Chimera delivered its medical supplies to the outer colonies, 2 days ahead of schedule, the story of their maelstrom crossing had spread across 3 sectors. Sarah watched from the colony's observation deck as supply ships arrived one after another, too late to matter but right on time to witness history. The colony administrator wants to speak with you, Marcus said, joining her at the viewport. Apparently, they've never seen quantum-sensitive medications arrive with 0 degradation before. Even Valcorp loses about 15% to quantum fluctuations during transport. Rivera's governors didn't just protect our systems, Sarah replied. They protected everything aboard. The quantum fields were so stable we could have transported raw eggs without breaking them. A flash of light drew their attention as another ship emerged from quantum space. This one was different, sleek and predatory, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Technology Bureau. They're hailing us, Marcus reported, his expression grim. Priority channel. Sarah had known this was coming. The GTB controlled technological development across known space, ensuring new innovations didn't destabilize the careful balance between species. They took a particularly dim view of unauthorized experimentation with quantum technology. The face that appeared on her communicator was Arcarian, the species' crystalline features arranged in what passed for a stern expression. Captain Chen, I am Inspector Vexthor of the Galactic Technology Bureau. Your vessel's recent performance has attracted considerable attention. We were simply making a delivery, Inspector, Sarah replied carefully. The maelstrom route was necessary to demonstrate technology that should not exist, Vexthor interrupted. Our analysis suggests you found a way to stabilize quantum fields using mechanical systems. That is supposedly impossible. Supposedly being the key word. The inspector's crystalline features shimmered. The Bureau requires you to submit your vessel for immediate inspection and analysis. If your innovations prove viable, they will be properly documented and licensed to appropriate corporate entities for development. In other words, Sarah thought, they'd take Rivera's governors, hand them over to the corporations, and leave the Chimera and her crew with nothing. And if we decline, that would be unwise. Vexthor's tone hardened. The Bureau has authority to impound vessels engaged in unauthorized technological development. For everyone's safety, of course. Before Sarah could respond, Rivera's voice cut through the ship's comm. Captain, we've got a problem. The quantum core is picking up massive distortions. Something's happening in the maelstrom. Sarah switched her display to the long-range sensors. The maelstrom, usually a swirling mass of quantum chaos, was changing. Patterns were forming in the randomness, like something was organizing the quantum fields. By the stars, Vexthor breathed, clearly seeing the same data. It's impossible. What's happening? Sarah demanded. The maelstrom. It's achieving quantum coherence. The disruptions will cascade across all quantum-based technology in the sector. The inspector's composure cracked. Every ship, every station, every quantum core will fail within hours. Sarah's mind raced. The outer colonies relied on quantum technology for everything from power generation to life support. Without it, thousands would die. But the Chimera's hybrid systems, we can help, she said. Our mechanical governors are unauthorized and untested. Vexthor snapped. The Bureau will handle this situation through proper channels. Your vessel will submit to impound immediately. Through the viewport, Sarah watched more ships arrive in the colony space. But these weren't rescue vessels. They were corporate security ships, no doubt hoping to protect their interests as the crisis unfolded. The colony's lights flickered as the first quantum disruptions reached them. On her display, she could see similar reports coming in from across the sector. The Bureau and the corporations had built an entire civilization on pure quantum technology, ignoring the stability that older systems could provide. Now that decision was about to cost countless lives. Sarah looked at her crew, at Rivera's determined expression, at Marcus's steady gaze, at Kexri's pulsing bioluminescence. They had created something unique, something that could save lives. But using it would mean defying both corporate power and Bureau authority. "Inspector," she said finally, "I'm afraid we'll have to decline your request. We have work to do." As she cut the transmission, Sarah felt the weight of what was coming. They'd proven their technology worked. Now they had to prove it could make a difference. Breaking point. The Chimera's hybrid drives pulsed with steady power as they approached the colonial outpost of New Haven, the first of many settlements threatened by the quantum cascade. Behind them, a fleet of Bureau and corporate vessels struggled to maintain pursuit, their quantum drives flickering and failing in the growing disruption. "Status report," Sarah called out, watching the cascade's effects ripple across space like cracks in glass. "New Haven's quantum core is at critical," Marcus reported. "Life support systems are failing. They'd got maybe 20 minutes before total collapse." Rivera's voice came through the comm, strained but determined. "Captain, I think we can do more than just evacuate them. The mechanical governors, they're not just stabilizing our quantum fields anymore. They're actually dampening the cascade effect in our vicinity." Sarah leaned forward. "You mean we could shield them?" "Better. I think we can teach them to shield themselves. Most colonies have old backup generators, mechanical systems they've never bothered to connect to their quantum cores. If we can show them how to integrate them like we did, they'd have their own hybrid systems." Sarah finished. "How long to set it up?" 10 minutes, maybe 15. "But Captain," Rivera hesitated, "we'd have to give them our governor designs. Everything we've developed." "Our edge," Marcus said quietly. "The only thing keeping us ahead of the corporations." Through the viewport, Sarah could see New Haven's lights flickering as their systems failed. 5,000 colonists lived there, with thousands more in settlements across the sector. All of them at risk because the proper authorities had decided that old technology wasn't worth keeping around. This was never about staying ahead, she decided. "Kexri, get us in close. Rivera, prepare to transmit the designs. Marcus, keep those Bureau ships off our backs." The Chimera dove toward the colony, its hybrid systems humming in defiance of the quantum chaos around them. Bureau ships tried to follow but fell back, their engines sputtering in the disruption. "Multiple ships launching from the surface," Marcus warned. "Corporate security vessels. They're trying to block our approach." Sarah gripped her chair as Kexri wove through the defensive screen. The corporate ships, running on emergency power, could barely maneuver, but there were enough of them to make their passage dangerous. "Taking fire," Marcus reported as warning alerts flashed. "Minor damage to the outer hull. They're desperate, Captain." "So are we," Sarah replied. "Rivera, how close do we need to be?" "Almost there. The colony's backup systems are decades old, but they're responding to our signals. Starting transmission of the governor designs now." The Chimera shuddered as more shots found their mark. On the main display, Sarah watched the cascade's effects intensify. Across the sector, ships were going dark, stations were losing power, and the quantum fabric of civilized space was unraveling. "Transmission complete," Rivera announced. "But Captain, the strain on our systems, combined with the damage we've taken, the quantum core is becoming unstable." Sarah looked at the readouts. Their jury-rigged systems were failing, pushed beyond their limits by the cascade and the battle. They could retreat now, save themselves, and hope the colony's engineers could implement the designs in time. Or, "Rivera, what if we linked our quantum core directly to the colony systems? Could our governors stabilize both?" "Theoretically, yes, but..." The engineer's voice was incredulous. "Captain, that would mean shutting down all our safety protocols. If the connection failed, the feedback would destroy both ships and colony." Through the viewport, Sarah watched New Haven's lights flicker again. In the colony's residential ring, she could see people gathering at the windows, watching their approach. Watching and hoping. "Sometimes you have to be crazy to make a difference," she said quietly. "Take us in, Kexri. Rivera, begin power transfer procedures. Let's show them what the Chimera can really do." The ship turned toward the colony one final time, its hybrid heart beating strong despite the damage. They had wanted to prove that their technology worked, that humanity's old wisdom still had value in this quantum age. Now they would prove it, or they would burn out trying. Behind them, the Bureau ships could only watch as the Chimera did what their pure quantum technology could not, faced the impossible, and refused to blink. Vindication. The connection between the Chimera and New Haven's power grid felt like lightning through the ship's hull. Every panel vibrated. Every system screamed warnings. But at the core of the chaos, Rivera's mechanical governors held steady, a rhythm as reliable as a heartbeat. "Colony power levels rising," Marcus reported, his voice tense. "Their hybrid integration is at 40%, 60, 75. Sarah watched through gritted teeth as New Haven's lights stabilized. One by one, the colony's systems came back online, protected by the same hybrid technology that had made the Chimera a laughingstock. Multiple contacts dropping out of quantum space, Kexri announced. More Bureau ships. No, wait. Their luminescent patterns shifted to surprise. Their colony vessels, dozens of them, all running on hybrid power. Sarah smiled. The colony engineers hadn't just implemented their designs. They'd shared them. Across the sector, settlements were adapting, surviving, proving that sometimes the best solutions came from looking backward to move forward. "Captain," Rivera called from engineering, "quantum core stability is critical. The connection to the colony is draining more power than we can sustain." "How long?" "Minutes, maybe less. We need to disconnect or..." The ship lurched violently. Warning klaxons blared as new alarms joined the cascade of alerts. "Multiple hull breaches," Marcus shouted. "The quantum feedback is tearing us apart." Sarah looked at her crew, at Rivera's determination, at Marcus's steady resolve, at Kexri's unwavering focus. They had started this journey as outcasts, running a ship no one believed in. Now they were about to prove that belief wasn't about what others thought possible. "Divert all remaining power to the mechanical governors," she ordered. "If we're going to burn out, let's make it count." The Chimera's hybrid heart thundered one final time. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as a wave of stable quantum energy rippled outward from their position, spreading across New Haven's dome like a protective blanket. The effect continued outward, touching other colonies, other ships, creating a zone of stability in the chaos. "It's working," Rivera breathed in amazement. "The governors aren't just containing the cascade. They're reversing it. The mechanical systems are providing a framework for the quantum fields to realign." The ship shuddered again, but this time it felt different. The alarms began to quiet, one by one, as the quantum storm around them calmed. "Incoming transmission," Marcus announced. "It's Inspector Vexthor." The Arcarian's crystalline features appeared on the main display. showing what Sarah recognized as respect. "Captain Chen, it seems we owe you and your crew an apology, and perhaps a debt of gratitude." Sarah leaned back in her chair, feeling the steady thrum of the Chimera's hybrid systems, damaged but undefeated. "Does this mean you'll be withdrawing the impound order?" The Bureau's position has evolved. Vex Thor's features shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. "In light of recent events, we would like to formally recognize your innovations in hybrid quantum mechanical engineering, with full rights and patents assigned to you and your crew, of course. And the corporations will have to negotiate with you directly if they wish to implement similar systems." The inspector paused. "Though I suspect many of them are already rushing to dust off their old mechanical backup systems." Sarah looked around her bridge, at the mix of old and new technology, at the worn seats and gleaming displays, at all the impossible combinations that had made the Chimera not just special, but vital. "Send them our way," she said with a smile. "We'll teach them that sometimes the best view of the future comes from remembering the past." The Chimera's systems had stabilized, its hybrid heart beating strong and sure. Around them, the quantum cascade was dissipating as more ships and stations implemented their own hybrid solutions. What had started as a desperate modification to keep an old ship flying had become a revolution in space travel. "Captain," Kexry called out, their patterns glowing with amusement, "we're receiving dozens of shipping requests. Seems everyone suddenly wants to book passage on the ugly hybrid ship." Sarah laughed. "Plot a course for the nearest port. We've got work to do." She patted her armrest affectionately. "And this time, we'll dock right at the front, where everyone can see us." The Chimera turned gracefully, its mismatched hull plates reflecting starlight in a dozen different colors. They were still a patchwork of human and alien technology, still a ship that belonged nowhere and everywhere. But now they weren't just survivors, they were pioneers. As they accelerated toward their next destination, Sarah thought about all the ships out there, all the colonies and stations, all slowly learning what her crew had discovered by necessity. That progress wasn't always about discarding the old for the new. Sometimes it was about finding the strength that came from bringing them together. The galaxy had laughed at their ship, but they weren't laughing anymore. The Chimera had shown them something better than perfection. It had shown them possibility. And in the end, that was the most human achievement of all.